Welcome back to the CoachIQ Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Kersh, and I am extremely excited to introduce Will Ferris to the podcast. Will is a national 3x3 coach working with Team USA 3x3, doing incredible things. Will, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Great intro. Excited to be here. You know, we go way back now for the last 2-3 years. I've learned a ton from you, so I'm grateful to share on your platform.
Absolutely. I'll give a little bit of context. We got connected. I was living in Norway. You were Bainbridge Island, Washington, and it was a late night Zoom call for me. And we started talking about the constraints-led approach, a little bit of 3-on-3 basketball. We had a mutual friend connect us. And pretty soon after that, established a camp out in Bainbridge. And it's been a constant conversation since then, friendship. And I've equally gained a ton of inspiration from what you're doing. And I would love to start right off the bat with Team USA 3x3. You've been doing great work with them. Can you talk about how that opportunity came about as somebody who was playing some USA 3x3 and then made that flip over to coaching with that organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if I was sitting here telling you that I was going to be coaching a national 3x3 team, even 8 months ago, I would have said you're crazy, because I had no intentions of doing it. I was coaching a high school team at the time. In a funny way, how life works, I think when you give so much of your heart to one path, even if it's not financially lucrative, even if it's not the most glamorous job, that's what I did with the high school team. Is I just devoted my whole heart to it, and I grew as a human, as a coach. And I don't think it's by accident that this opportunity came up. I think I was prepared for it. I think, whatever's greater than us knew I was prepared for it, even though the players I work with are older than me and have more experience maybe in the game than me. But it's in a roundabout way. We were in our first game of state. We ended up losing the game. And the day after, my buddy had hit me up. He's like, hey, do you want to come to LA and just be a part of the training camp for the USA team? So I was like, screw it. I'm not doing anything. I flew out there and I actually was playing with them. And I was just on the court trying to help them gear up. And one of the head coach at the time saw me drawing up plays. And he's like, do you want to help out and be a coach? My assistant coach? I was like, sure. And long story short, he ended up stepping down. And Jimmer and Jay, the guys running 3x3, were like, Will, you might have to be the head coach for the World Cup. And so I ended up traveling to Mongolia this summer, was able to kind of lead all the practices, all the training camp, all the film, all the scouting. And it's led to me being the AmeriCup coach this fall. And I've just been in constant communication with all the pro guys that we have, sending them film and making sure that they got what they need to perform on the tour.
Now, coaching for 3x3 is a different experience from 5-on-5, correct? If you could speak to that, on what does it look like? 5-on-5, you're on the sideline, obviously. 3x3, a lot of it is, once it's go time, the players are responsible for a lot of the adjustments, right? So what does your role look like as a coach comparing 5-on-5 to 3-on-3?
Yeah, if you want to have an ego and coach, 3x3 is not the avenue you'd want to go. I look at my high school experience coaching 5-on-5, and I see a lot of college coaches, and you see Bobby, or is it Dan Hurley? They have these egos because they do have a lot of control over what happens in the games. And they can manipulate a lot of things on the court to put their players in good positions, and they can feel responsible for that. Whereas coaching 3x3 is very tied to the constraint-led approach that you teach. Is there's a lot of solutions that need to be made on the court. And if you're over-coaching, over-analyzing, and giving too many rules, realistically, none of that's going to happen in the game. And so you really have to prioritize decision-making and conditioning and making good reads, in the flow of the game, rather than forcing all these things that, in a 5-on-5 game you can control. So when I got the position, I picked your brain a little bit, but I also was just taking what I learned from you and what I liked from my 5-on-5 experience. And I said, well, in the game, I want to be able to watch these guys and not say a word. I don't want to be in the crowd yelling anything. You're not actually sitting on the bench with the team. You're in the stands, and you get a technical foul if they look at you. So I was just like, wow, what a beautiful thing. Like this is what sports should be. You're a coach that you teach them, and then you just trust them to perform. And so all the drills that I had designed were decision-making based, but they had a ton of high intensity and conditioning elements. And then we prioritized whatever our values were on offense and defense. And man, we did a heck of a job. I'm surprised we didn't medal at the World Cup, but we were 4-0 in pool play, playing the best basketball. I mean, all the guys were like, man, we're in the best space as a team. And ran into Germany. They have some studs, and we're cold for, a 10-minute game. And that's just like how it is. That's 3x3. Like, you can have the greatest 4-game run and lose the first game and you're out. So I think for me, I keep racking my brain about why did we lose, and how do you put your team in position to succeed in such a volatile game. Whereas in 5-on-5, you have timeouts and you have halftime and you have different quarters and momentums and things that stop the game. 3x3, you really don't. So you just have to roll with the punches, and you gotta be able to create adaptable players that can problem solve at all times. And as a coach, that's humbling, because like you start to view the game differently. You start to be like, okay, if I'm not out there and I can't manipulate this, how do I need to manipulate the environment and practice in a way to design that skill? And so I think, that's something that a lot of your viewers probably resonate to, is that is what the CLA approach is. And trying to bring that to the guys, they loved it. They were like, man, actually some of the drills they loved. Some of them I was going to share this, like creating a culture and environment. Like, I almost wanted to create certain drills that they viewed as the enemy, so that the other drills they viewed as like, they're like, okay, great, we're going to do, even though those other ones were hard, I made these like extremely hard ones that everyone rallied against, and we're like, yeah, this sucks, and everyone's in it together. So, but the CLA approach, I think, throughout really helped the group play efficiently and play well. So I think that was a lot of info, but that was kind of my experience this summer, and I'm going to take that into the fall as well.
Yeah, it's an incredibly cutthroat game. And I think even if you play it for fun with the rules that these players are competing under, you feel how much more life and death it feels, the experience of it is, as opposed to playing 5-on-5. Like, it's a different energy system, where 5-on-5, some of the best players, they're running 2 to 4 miles throughout a course of 40 minutes, right? 3x3, there was 10 minutes on the clock.
It's 10 minutes. And for most tournaments, if you lose 2 games, you're gone. So like, we'll fly out to China and you lose 2 10-minute games and you're done. You fly home. So like, put that in perspective. Like, when you say cutthroat, it's like you might fly 18 hours, 30 something hours round trip, and play 20 minutes of basketball. So if you want to gear up and do this, it's like, you got to be a little crazy. And that's why I have so much respect for these guys, especially from America, that are willing to do this. It's you got to be a little, you got to have a little screw loose and a commitment to the game. But man, there is also that double-edged sword, where when you win and when you have a good experience, it's maybe greater than 5-on-5, because everyone's a part of it.
Right.
You know how hard it is to achieve that goal. You know how volatile it is, so you cherish those moments a lot more. So yeah, it's cutthroat, man. It's a crazy sport.
Yeah, the psychology piece to that sticks out to me, where everything is heightened, and you have so much less time. That time that you're having to perform, you're way more exhausted. The game itself is incredibly physical. I've played against Will, and I feel like I'm getting fouled every single second. And he's like, this is the game. And I think that's one thing that I've learned a lot from you is how important building identity is, and building tools for the psychological game is. So I know when you're working with these teams and these players, you touched on it, you're designing environments in practice to make them sharper on the court, but also mentally. But can you be more specific on how are you preparing the mental side of it for these individuals to go out there and be a collective unit where they're fighting essentially what feels like for their lives for 10 minutes, and even if things go well, they could still lose? How do you prepare a person for that mentally?
I don't think you can fully. I think what we really worked on as a team, especially in the World Cup, was not giving energy to things that we didn't have to. So I would show a lot of film of just our body language on the court, and where I would see people giving energy to the refs or at each other, and then really positive things of like, hey, I can see you guys like calming down, taking a deep breath, coming back together. I'll be honest, like I think with being younger than a lot of those guys in my first experience, and I'm coming in and I wasn't really supposed to be the coach, like I wasn't as confident teaching some of those things. But I'll tell you what, I did learn maybe the most important lesson I've ever learned in terms of culture and ways that you can identify what you value in your culture was, I'll never forget this. It's like seeped into my mind when we had our wins, we were 4-0, we would sit there and we would kind of harp on little things we should have done better. And we maybe embrace the win for like 5 minutes. And then it was like, what did we do wrong? What do we got to get better? When we lost to Germany in that quarterfinal, we sat in that tent. There's a tent outside of the arena. We sat in that tent dead silent for 30 minutes. You could hear a pin drop. No one said a word. And I was like, wow, something stuck out to me. And I was like, I believe that we're here on earth. Again, we're going higher level, out there thinking a little bit, but we're here on earth to grow and evolve and get better. And I think the universe is always trying to guide us to get to that learning at some level. So whether it's whatever message or whatever funnel or whatever way of communication that we're going to listen to, I believe it's kind of guiding us through that. For that team specifically, what I noticed was when we were going to be most receptive to learning was when we lost. And so we valued outcomes a lot to learn, rather than the experience of winning and success and having joy out there and like enjoying the process. To me, we weren't as present and listening to that space. So ultimately, if you want to build like a great culture, you got to learn maybe times 10 more from all the great experiences that we're doing than the negative things. And the guys would always like get on me in the film, not on me, but like they would always be like, man, it's weird that you show all these good clips all the time. They're like, you show 3 minutes of good clips before any of the bad things. Like, why do you do that? Like, nobody's ever done that. And without knowing, I was like, I'd rather us learn and be more receptive to learning from great things in great moments, way more than learning from failure and negativity and challenge. Now, it's not to say that isn't a really valuable learning lesson, but in terms of culture and preparing, I think you're not just preparing for the volatility of failure, you're preparing for all the great things that can go well. And I think sometimes, like when you're in a team environment, 3x3, you can kind of bicker at each other and philosophies. The more you spend in that, the higher chance you're going to only learn from the negative. And so the cultures that I've always tried to build were always surrounding joy and trust and responsibility. But that takes intentionality. Like, how often are we sitting after a workout and intentionally focusing on what we learned of the great things we did that day? And for most people, they have one success, it goes in and out the ear, whoop, it's gone. They don't even spend 10 seconds listening to it. But I'm sure, like, if you have a bad game, you're sitting there and you're churning in your head and you're only thinking about that. Again, I think that higher power is going to guide us to experiences that we'll learn from. So when I think of culture for that group, or just any group in general, it's identifying with each person, like, what are you going to listen to? Because I think for a lot of people, you could look at me and go, well, I'm younger. I didn't have any coaching experience in 3x3. And I also, these guys have played longer than me. They might be better basketball players. So what are they going to listen to in me as the leader? So in any environment, if it's not the leader they're going to listen to, you got to find what they're going to learn from. And if one guy's only going to learn from failure, then you got to either identify that for him, help him shift that, or you teach him the other tools to learn from positive things. So again, I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, I learned a valuable lesson that day, which was, your culture and the values and the mental, psychological preparation is really just how do you keep channeling it towards growth. It's not just the success of the game. And I think that's where the pressure comes from in 3x3. And the volatility is when you have these high expectations and it's all about outcomes and shots aren't falling and now you're down 10-2, like that's when everything crumbles. But it's like, if we don't ever have to get to that point and we can learn and stay in the space where every single moment we can be as present as possible and we're going to learn and listen to every single element of this game, things are going to go well for you. And I think it's why the teams like Oob and these like their Serbian team that wins a lot of the events, I think they just, they'll lose a game by 15 point, or not 15, but like 8 points in the first, round when it doesn't matter, like they won't get sent home. And you never see any like really big reactions. They just stay in the course. And they just want to pry on people that live and die by these outcomes. And if they can get you in that corner, then they know, okay, we're probably going to win. We're going to take the smart shot, the right shot. We're going to be patient, and things are going to happen for us. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a counterintuitive approach to developing culture and reinforcing the psychology, the team psychology that you're trying to instill. And I think I've seen firsthand how you do it on a 5-on-5 basis as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've also recently, I got a chance to go to a Celtics practice. So it was really cool to see a coach like Joe Mazzulla. And this was a summer practice, so not a normal practice, but he was still in the building. It was more focused on player development. Their head of player development was running most of the things, but Joe was there the entire time. And I was keeping my eye on the things to him that were really important. And it was a lot of these small details. Now I was watching from afar, so I was having to interpret a little bit, but certain things of like his assistant coach not being confident in a call that they were making, playing pickup. And he's like, hey man, like if you're going to make the call, like you got to make the call and show confidence.
Like as a ref?
As a ref. And like, that was the one time he spoke up after Jaylen Brown turned it over twice in a row. He didn't say anything. Like he wasn't concerned with that. These two big men were really battling and like got into a little bit of a tussle, and he brought them over and encouraged them for their passion. And so it was so interesting what he was choosing to listen to, which I think was the phrase that you used.
I love that.
And I think that's why I think Joe Mazzulla does a great job developing culture. And I also draw this connection because I saw a clip recently where the players were explaining that Joe Mazzulla incentivized winning by winners getting to run. And that was the first time I saw that was at one of your practices, or it was one of your philosophies where you win a drill, you get the opportunity to run. And this was a 5-on-5 team, your high school at Bainbridge High School. What you did with that program was incredible. Can you talk on a few specific things like winning? If you win, you get to run. The journaling aspect, and maybe pick one other of counterintuitive ways that you developed culture and were able to impact these high school players.
Hey, I just want to take a quick break. My name's Russell. I'm one of the founders of CoachIQ. We put on this podcast here. Our goal is to interview top coaches and business owners in the youth sports space across the United States and give you guys insight on the ground floor. How are they running their business? What do they think about the current ecosystem? And what are their thoughts on where things are going? So we're super excited to bring this to you guys. If you don't know about us, we are an all-in-one sports management platform. We run a lot of the businesses that we have on the podcast. And we're fortunate enough now to work with about 1,000 sports coaches across the United States. And it's our goal to make your life as easy as possible in running the business itself. Website, scheduling, payment management, everything handled seamlessly on our platform. And really what separates us is We are built specifically for sports. We're not powering nail salons. We're not powering Pilates studios. Every second of the day, we focus on you. So if that's something you need, where you're looking to get your time back, or you're looking to actually grow your business, CoachIQ is really the only platform thinking about you every single day, interviewing and working with the top coaches in the industry, specific to sports. So if that's something we can help you with, we would love to connect with you. You can visit our website, coachiq.com, schedule a free demo there. The demos are awesome. It's really less about selling and much more about just walking through what we've learned and providing value on what other coaches are doing. And if it's a match, it's a match. So absolute no-brainer. Go schedule a demo, totally worth the time. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for customers who are working with us. It allows us to do all this, make better product, and the main goal, help athletes all across the United States and the world get a phenomenal experience from you guys, the coaches.
Yeah. First of all, it's cool. I really love what you shared about the Mazzulla guy, where he's like, what is he listening to? I think that's like a freaking amazing, I want to stamp that as like a coaching pillar for me, especially as I continue to coach, is like, what are you choosing to listen to? Because it's so easy to harp on those negatives. You know, a couple culture things that I would do in line with that, you know, we did mindfulness, meditation. We tried to commit to like things that nobody wanted to do. We just made them standards instead of punishments. So I never used running as a punishment. I just was like, hey, if we're going to be the best team, we got to be in shape. We're all going to commit to running, 2 suicides at the end of every practice. So nobody's like, oh, this guy's, it's just, this is the standard. So trying to make those things standards rather than punishments, I think was really big. I would have kids constantly receive like letters from each other. So peer-to-peer awareness and acknowledgements of what they saw that they really valued in each other. And those letters would get pretty deep of like, I've had kids be like, man, I really didn't think that this person would think this way about me because I'm in his same position. And some of the stuff he shared to me, I was like, wow, it really freed me. It really released me to just be present there. Because I think when you're building a culture, and, I'm not perfect at it, but you want to eliminate people's awareness of threats. And what I mean by that is like when people are defensive or they feel threatened, they're in a reactionary, tight, fearful state. It's creating stress in their body. And there's nobody that performs better when they're in stress. There's nobody that plays elite basketball when they're in a fight or flight state. Now, you might want to access that for very short bursts, but as human beings, we're really only designed to experience stress to that degree for like 30 minutes. Now, if you have kids walking into practice for 2 hours in a threatened state, you're probably not going to get the best out of your team. So what I always prioritized was like, all right, if I can get kids to relax and to enjoy, we would do, first thing we would do every practice, I would call it a presence drill. So that could be dodgeball, that could be tag, that could be just some random balloon drill that I found online, like something that brought joy back to the kids. You mentioned journaling. I would oftentimes try to like get them to journal as a way to release or just to like come down from their day. A stressful day, most of them are probably on their phones scrolling, like something to bring them back to the moment. But a lot of it is reframing threats. Like, hey, if I challenge you today, like those kids need to know I'm challenging them to help them get better, not as a way to demean them, make them feel like they're worse or not valued in the program. And, helping those reframes is the biggest thing. Is like, in my mental performance work, a lot of that is, kids will be like, well, I missed that first shot. Now I feel tight and I'm scared. Well, then the first thing I should do is teach you that, one, you're the one that's reacting to these thoughts, and 2, you can reframe it any way that you want. So, and that takes a lot of vulnerability from the kids, but also for me, because if kids are coming up to me now saying, hey, like, we're not doing what you said you were doing, or I am not feeling in that space, now I have to adapt and adjust. I have to listen. And so I think a lot of those culture things were something that I always like stood by. Like a game that stands out is we lost to, I guess our rival, but they won the state title this last year, and we got destroyed. and the kids probably thought, we're going to be running or like doing something crazy. And I brought cookies to practice, and we played dodgeball in the wrestling room. And it was like the most fun day that we ever had. And I was like, guys, it's not just about the outcomes. We're moving on from this. And the last one, I'll do sneaky things. Like I'll throw a minute on the clock. I'll be like, get on the sideline. I'll pretend like I'm pissed. And then as they're gearing up to run, I just go, all right, you got 1 minute to tell each other what you value about them. And like, they'll be like, like little things like that to try and keep them engaged and have fun and, enjoy the process of growth. I think those were the key things from my standpoint as a coach that I tried to look into.
I think there's a level of novelty, and you keep things so fresh, which is appreciated by your teams. And I've had the privilege of being there and experiencing your ability to do it in person, which is, I think, a true gift you have. But I also hope that what you just dropped there with some techniques or some strategies that other coaches and trainers can take and start to implement. And talking with your players, it was so evident to me that they had so much fun playing basketball, but their appreciation for you wasn't really about basketball. It was about transforming them as men, as young men, developing, which I thought was the coolest thing, because I work with hundreds of high school boys, and 90% of them have a bad relationship with their high school coach. There's some tension there. There's a threat. And to see across the board your players have so many profound positive things to say about you speaks to the volumes of what you're doing from a culture perspective. Like, this isn't just you're not playing games just to play games. Like, it has a deeper purpose. It connects with these guys, and their ability to relate with one another is another aspect to it, where I think you've created a really tight unit of players that are off doing incredible things now. And I think there are so many ties between what you're doing with 3-on-3 and the 5-on-5, the culture, your experience on the court, that's important. So I want to switch gears and now talk about what you're building at the youth level with the 3-on-3 league. So can you talk about the league? It's on Bainbridge Island. Talk about the magnitude, how you set it up, the type of kids that are there, the environment in the gym. I think this is one of the most beautiful models in basketball, and get businessy here as well, because there are so many trainers and coaches out there that want to make a positive impact on the sport and want to do it in a way that's financially responsible. And I think you've really cracked the code here.
Yeah. And this is going to tie in, it might not seem like it, but to the culture piece and the league that I've kind of created on Bainbridge. I think one thing also that's important is not always the activities you do with the culture building, but also you recognize that you are the culture and you're a part of the culture. And without your buy-in to apply the values that you want to live by, it won't sink into your culture. So like even the Elevate camp we created on Bainbridge, we were so bought into the values that we were trying to teach. And so that has to seep down to the kids. So a lot of my best moments, my best coaching moments were me recognizing, hey, Will, what you know, nobody cares. It's who you are and what presence you bring to that gym. And that stuck with me. Like when we beat the number one team in the state last year, I remember I sat in my car for 30 minutes before the game and I was like, just be the leader and be the human and the confidence and the space of being, without telling your kids that, saying that is who you are, they need to feel that is who you are. And I remember tapping into that and walking into that gym and knowing no matter if we win or lose, like this is going to be the sickest, most amazing night of all time. So tying that into the 3-on-3 league, a lot of the feedback I got, I was like, at the end of it, I was like, well, anyone could have created this, like da-da-da. And people were like, no, like it's because of you. Like the environment that you created, that you, I mean, there's so many people that helped me, but it's who you are that you brought to this model, why these kids are having so much fun, why they're coming into the gym excited, because you're the leader of it and you are excited about it. You're present with it. Your mind's not in 1,000 places. You're fully here. You're right here in this moment with these kids. There's nowhere else you'd rather be. So with any model that I talk about, I'd really encourage first, anybody that wants to try something or create a business or do something, like, you are the business first. You are your purpose first. Because if I need that from the person or the event or the thing, I'm probably going to be in a threatened state, because now someone can take my purpose from me. And who's trying to take my model? And, why is this kid not liking it? Why is he not enjoying it? Why did this parent give me feedback I didn't like? Now I'm in this like heightened state where I'm not free. I'm not having fun. Okay, now I've totally lost the point. When I created this model, my idea was, okay, where are the biggest withdrawals or negative experiences in sport for most kids? Their parents are overactive, they don't get the playing time they want, and their coaches are over controlling and demanding. And maybe they don't even have the knowledge that they should be over controlling and demanding. They're just volunteer coaches or dads. So when I created the 3-on-3 league, I said, okay, I want to not only bring high school kids to be the refs, but I want these kids to have an environment for free and spontaneous play where winning isn't everything, but it is a part of it. But parents are, the first year, I didn't do it this year, but the first year I was like, parents, if you start coaching, you're out of the gym. Like, I'll kick you out. And, but it was funny because if you create a good enough model, the parents don't say anything in general. They just enjoy it. Everyone's having fun. So the whole thing was I would divvy them, and it got up to be 100 kids this year. I did 4 weekends in September, every Sunday in September. The commitment was, hey, the days will be no longer than 2 hours, but your kid will be absolutely gassed. He'll get 1,000 more touches than a normal 5-on-5 game, and he's not going to be yelled at and screamed at. He'll have a chance to learn and grow. And so the model was every weekend I had like 4th through 6th divisions for boys and girls and 7th through 8th boys and girls. And in the gym I had 4 hoops, and they would play 4 games each day, 4 10-minute games. And they would have breaks or gaps in between, but it would be an hour and a half, and they would get their games done. And I had, in 2 years of doing this, I had 1 negative comment. In 2 years of coaching high school basketball, I've had hundreds of negative comments. And so what I was sharing with you before is I was like, wow, not only was it really financially lucrative, the kids had a blast, the parents had a blast. The feedback was amazing. The kids got a lot better. And it was the purity of basketball that I fell in love with. Like every time I think of basketball, I think of what an amazing game that teaches so many life skills and so many amazing physical skills. It's so much fun. And everything that gets in the way of that is all these politics and things and people fearing this and fearing that. And it's like, I was like, you know what? I'm going to create something that's completely opposite of that. And let's just create an environment where people want to be. And so, I mean, it was just cool, like looking at it. And then in this winter, I'm going to be running like an 8-week jamboree format. So that was more of a league format where we kept standings and kids would have their teams. In the winter, USA Basketball is partnering with me, and we're doing about 60 kids, and we'll do an hour and a half each Monday, where it'll be half training, teaching skills, and then half just playing.
Very cool.
So, and there's a lot of models that I've like looked into, and there's another guy in California that wants to do like a really structured league where everyone has coaches and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that. I would just stay away from parents, like, as much as you can. God bless the parents, but like sometimes they can't help themselves, and then it ruins the experience for the kid.
Right.
So if I can take that away and I can give the best experience, and it's financially lucrative for me, and it's a great experience, and it's fun, like it's a win-win-win-win-win for everyone in the community. And there's no drama. How cool is that?
It's the perfect formula. Can I ask a more technical question? Probably not the most fun question, but how did you market this, and how did you organize and collect signups, get emails, communicate everything? What was that like? At 100 kids, that's a lot of parents to be communicating with. How'd you have those systems in place, or how'd you build them?
So I mean, both the years I ran it through the youth program we had on the island. So the first year, I kind of stayed away from all of it. We just kind of marketed it on the website and sent out a couple emails, and it just blew up. Like, a lot of people signed up for it. A lot of people wanted to be a part of it. And I had coached a lot of those youth kids. So I knew a lot of the parents, like, there was a lot of that. This year, a lot of those kids had aged out. Like, I didn't know any of these youth program kids. So again, we marketed it on the youth website, which I think for anyone wanting to do this, that's the best way to go about it, because you get a big database. It's great for the program that wants to market a new event and they want to bring something cool in. And then I just, as soon as the signups happened, and I really wanted to do it on my website, but I was like, you know what, like, keep it going with the youth program. You can run your own thing later. And as soon as I got all the emails from who signed up, I just took that over. I started emailing people, just the scheduling, the teams, a lot of that, all those logistics. That's where the majority of the time is. And then I actually started an official league on the FIBA website. So if you look at the website, you can see all the kids' names are signed up. They can create an official FIBA profile, and they can get USA national ranking points. So it's not a lot, but a couple of the kids are like, have 50 ranking points in 3x3. They're literally contributing to the USA basketball Olympic, point system. And so it's like the coolest thing, because kids can like see their profile and they're like ranked. Like, one of the kids is like 1,800 in the U18 of USA. And it's like, what? So a lot of that was like really cool to add this year. But as far as emails, like, yeah, you gotta grind sometimes. Like, there's going to be a lot of feedback and questions and things like that I think if you want to run something successful, you got to be willing to do that, first of all. So I think anyone trying to do that, the over communication piece is huge. That leads to less conflict and less confusion. So I don't know if that answers your question entirely, but just like being aware, coaching high school is the best, because you learn quickly how aggressive people get if they don't understand the information. So I think I've just gotten better at, like, hey, once you have the contacts, over communicate, create a good relationship, create a lot of like trust. I think that's the key thing.
Very cool. And do players or parents come to you with their teams set already, or are you making all the teams?
So that's the hardest part. So I tried to, in the sign up process for this model, right? I think there's models where you can have them sign up for their teams, but then you're going to get a huge disparity of talent. So on Bainbridge, there's not that many kids that you're pulling from. So if I just let them sign up, all the best kids are going to sign up with each other. And then there's going to be a lot of kids who don't even have friends yet in the program. So they're going to sign up by themselves. And so what I did is I took the kids' height, their experience, skill level, and I tried to divvy all the teams evenly. And then I said, hey, there will be no trade requests, but by the end of week 2, the teams will be solidified. So it gave me freedom to go, if I messed up on a team, if some team's really stacked, I can move kids around.
Oh, nice.
And you know what's funny, man? I had, in 2 years, 0 complaints about that. I thought I would get more, where like maybe a kid's on a 4-0 team and now he's sent to the 0-4 team. Not a single complaint on, I'm sure maybe they might think it, but not a single complaint on roster development. And I think the key, and this is like to this model, you want every team to have 4 kids, even though it's probably better if there's only 3, because you have to be on the fly every weekend. There's going to be multiple kids missing. So you have to be able to adapt, move kids around, make sure kids have at least 3 players. And so it's a really dynamic thing. And that's why I think really loosely creating the league and then just building up towards that final weekend where it's a tournament play.
Right.
As soon as it gets to tournament play, you want the teams to kind of be solidified. Now,
Right.
all those league standing games, like, they matter, but they're not as important as making sure the teams are correct for that final weekend.
Right.
So I don't know. To me, I think as the leader of that, I feel like I wanted way more control than not, because it was like I knew there was going to be a lot of chaos. Now, if you have coaches for the teams and I'm moving kids around, now, dude, now we're in I have to communicate to the coach and I got to let him know. And now I'm pulling a kid from one team and I'm moving him over here. Now I have to now I'm dealing with fires on multiple levels and egos, parents. So it was like, you know what? I'm going to just create a model where I have more of the control and it's about the kids. Because ultimately I'm doing it to shield the kids so that they have a good.
You've built in adaptability based off the way you structured everything. I think that's really smart. And in putting yourself in the shoes of a parent, especially if you were to look at something like a fall AAU, right? You're running this league in a time where parents could alternatively go to a tournament, spend a ton of money. Their child might shoot 3 shots. They might not even get in the game sometimes. There's so many politics of the team there. Maybe they're paying, they might play 4 games in a weekend where by that last game, it's not even high quality. The last few games, it's not high quality. Whereas this, like, you watch your child touch the ball so many times. You're in and out within 2 hours. You probably drove 20 minutes to the gym. You have your entire weekend and your kid's fired up about everything. He's nationally ranked in the country. There's so many positives to the model. And I think from a development standpoint as well, the kids are getting so much better, so much faster. So it makes sense on so many levels. And I think you're crushing it, Will.
Thanks,
I
man.
appreciate you taking this time. Want to wrap up by giving you a chance to say what the best way to contact you is if people have questions and want to get in contact with you. How would they do that?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. I mean, it's just a amazing opportunity to share and continue to grow and communicate with you. I just think it's really cool what you're building and creating for people. Because I know how much you changed my whole coaching philosophy in life, and little do you know, that stuff gets seeped through and other people see it and then they start changing. It's I think that's the coolest thing about life is that you give a bit of knowledge to somebody and then you impact 20 other people without even knowing it. So I just want to say thank you, man, for inspiring a lot of this. I don't think any of the stuff would have been possible with the USA team as effective as it was without you. So I just want to say thank you on that front. And then, if you guys want to contact me, my website is willwellnesscoaching.com. And you can, there's a contact button there. And if you guys want to get in touch, whether it's about mental performance, that's kind of my full-time job right now, or, get into the weeds on 3x3 or basketball, whatever it is. I'm always available to chat and see how I can help.
Amazing. Will, thank you so much. Hopefully we can run this back again soon.
Yes, sir.